Running a business is hard, obviously. Marketing is extremely hard. But I find that the hardest thing is content because you have to figure out a way to stay consistent and to keep creating content. Because if you stop, good content, which is so hard to make. And if you stop, it kind of goes away.
Welcome to the Magnificent Marketing Podcast, where we interview the top marketing experts in the world to keep you up to date on all the changes and best practices to help you grow your business and stay on the cutting edge. Welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone. I'm here today with Rafael Romis, and Rafael is a proud husband and father, founder of award-winning creative agency Weberas and Generate Culture. He has over 10 years of experience in the digital marketing space and has successfully launched 230 plus projects for Fortune 500 and startup clients worldwide. He's in the process of publishing a book on the unicorn principle, also known as How to Make Your Audience Give a Damn About Your Brand, and focusing on beauty e-commerce brands. And today, we are going to talk about looking to start up an e-commerce company and everything you need to know to do so. Rafael, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, very excited. E-commerce is all the rage these days, and I think the barriers of entry have lowered, that people with a good idea and a great product can be successful fairly quickly.
Sometimes even without having the product, with all the job seeking out there, there's a lot you can do.
All right. Well, we're excited to hear your take on it, seeing that you're the expert in this area. So yeah, let's dig right in. So, like I said, these are popping up everywhere. So I'm very excited to speak with you about this today. And, we're seeing more and more, bigger companies, even every day, people, one-person companies start these up, and we want to help people do these the right way. So let's just dig right in and have you kick things off by giving an initial explanation of what this unicorn principle is all about. And then we'll move into, how to apply and execute everything.
Great. So I find that the best way to describe principle is through a story. And it basically goes like this. It was about 5 years ago when two makeup artists approached us wanting to start a makeup brand, which today is an everyday phenomenon. It happens a lot. Not a lot of them succeed, but a lot of people are looking to go down that path. So what they were doing is that they were really vocal about the fact that the market was missing something. The market was missing really strong and highly pigmented lipstick colors. So they set out to start this brand, and they pushed it out through their clients. So they started testing out their products, or not testing rather, but applying their products to their customers and showing them on social media. And surely enough, before the brand even launched, people started getting excited. They're like, yeah, this is different. This is something that's missing from the market, and we want it. So fast forward to when we actually did launch that website. It was midnight. They wanted to do a midnight launch. And less than an hour after we flipped the switch, everything was sold out. That was a brand new company. The name was new, the product was new, everything was new. But for some reason, everything sold out in record time. And that's what I call the unicorn principle, the reason why that happened. And the reason is that if you really dig deep into a product or company, in most cases you can find, or you can at least manufacture, even though I prefer authenticity, you can find something that makes it unique. It doesn't always have to be about the product, and it doesn't always have to be about the features of the product or the specs of the product. It could even be about the founder of the company, but you have to find that something that makes it really stand out in the market, because I typically focus on beauty and fashion, and they're both such saturated industries that regardless of what kind of product you have, there's going to be a bunch that are very similar. Mm-hmm. So you really don't want to make it be about specs or about really tiny details of your product, because number one, you're probably not going to be that unique in that. Number two, people don't care about that as much. So you want to find something that's unique, unique to your product, and you want to find something that's unique and people care about. And if you find that, and if you advertise and market your product, if you position your product based on that one item, you'll make a ton of sales. That's the unicorn principle.
Interesting. So you're basically just like, hey, find your differentiating factor, but not in necessarily. I mean, I guess it could be an ingredient if the ingredient is very unique, but it's but it could be a variety of things. Can you give some examples of in a variety? I would love for you to speak to a unicorn principle where it's about somebody versus where it could be about a benefit or a feature, or it could be something underlying. So if you could kind of give some examples so people can start to get their brains thinking.
Sure. I'll give you a couple of beauty examples because I just have them off the top of my head.
Sure.
And then I'll dive into pretty much any industry. A great one is Fenty Beauty, which is Rihanna's company. When she launched Fenty Beauty, she launched it based on the concept that there aren't many lipsticks out there. There isn't a lot of makeup out there for people of all skin tones, of all skin colors. So that was the main thing. It became more about filling the gap for people of varying skin color than just making another makeup brand.
Now, for just to touch on that, I mean, did they just say, "Hey, we have all the colors available," or did they even go deeper and said,
"Oh,
we have the perfect color for your skin tone"? You know, all the colors that match. Like, what was their
whole marketing campaign based on that? It launched by saying that we have these 40 different colors so that we can cover the whole spectrum.
Okay.
So the brand became that. It wasn't about. Obviously, it's great to have Rihanna behind you, right? But that always helps. But it wasn't, okay, this is the makeup that Rihanna wears, like another example that I'll give you in a minute. It wasn't about that. It was about the fact that here is a problem. There isn't enough makeup to cover the whole spectrum, and we are the solution. So, join us. Let's be together. I find that it's always great when a brand can tap into something that might be a little bit bigger than the product. So that did have that underlying tone that someone is being discriminated against, maybe because they're a minority. How many, just random example, right? How many Indian women are there in America? So maybe they're underrepresented, and maybe because of that reason, makeup companies decide not to produce. It's a business at the end of the day. So if the market is much smaller, I might decide to focus on another market. But Fenty Beauty came out and said, no, everyone. This is what we do for everyone. So it became a movement almost, and it really took a life of its own. Another good example is Jeffree Star Cosmetics. Jeffree Star is a celebrity, singer, YouTube personality, influencer, entrepreneur. He does everything. And he has a very unique, bold look. So when he launched his own makeup line, it was a lot about basically being like him. So he became the face of the brand, and he also became the unique value proposition, because the idea was that if you wanted to get that look, if you wanted to look like Jeffree Star, you have to go with Jeffree Star Cosmetics. That doesn't mean that there are other companies that will have very similar colors and very similar makeup, but it becomes irrelevant because they're not Jeffree Star. So that's what I find is the biggest power of. That's the unicorn principle in play perfectly, because there will always be other brands that have something similar, but they're not going to be this one brand. Apple is also a great example. When you look at Apple, Apple changed the whole industry, where 10 years ago, you would see commercials for computers, and you see literally, they show you a PC in front of a solid color background, and then next to it, you have bullet points telling you how much disk space it has and how much RAM. Today, none of that happens, because now that looks weird and cheap, because Apple came out and said, no, so the person climbing the mountain, pulling out the tablet and taking a picture or whatever. because that looks really cool and it gives you a lot of emotion. And I think that basically becomes the bottom line. If you focus on specs, it becomes too logical. And people typically don't buy with logic. They buy with emotion. So that's the main takeaway. I would say that if just like last month we were in Greece and we wanted to buy sunscreen, and that was all about logic because we needed a certain SPF because we have a baby and we needed to be natural and all that. But that was a very unique situation where we walked into a store and we had to find something with a specific spec. In reality, if you're selling sunscreen and you have, if the maximum SPF, I'm making this up, is 100 and you come out and say, I was able to do 110, unless you figure out that this is a gap in the market that people care about, you're just wasting your time. If people are not complaining about 100 not being enough, you're just wasting your time and focusing a lot of effort and energy in creating a product, even a campaign, maybe pushing your 110 masterpiece. That's fall to blank ears because people don't care about it.
Understand. So it really sounds like we're talking about you really got to build a brand, right? Now, to circle back to that one company you mentioned, they turned the website on and they just sold out. Let's not, paint a picture how easy it is.
No,
they had to have done something leading up to that, right? They couldn't just have products, so they had to have an audience or something before that, right?
They had both actually. They had a little bit of the product because they were using it as makeup artists, and they had a following, and they built the following too.
Before they launched.
What's really amazing about that story is that we had a situation where both of these makeup artists had a following. It wasn't a humongous following, but they had a following. But then the brand that they created became much bigger than them. So Cosmetics right now has almost 3 million followers on Instagram. And these are hardcore fans. These are not just like looky-loos, just looking at pictures and stuff. These are people that are getting excited. These are people that are promoting the brand. These are people that just buy everything as soon as it comes out.
Yeah. So, and I assume they're serving that audience with good content and tips.
Oh, absolutely. Content is number one. And I find that, running a business is hard, obviously. Marketing is extremely hard. But I find that the hardest thing is content because you have to figure out a way to stay consistent and to keep creating content, because if
good content,
which is so hard to make, and if you stop, it kind of goes away. You have to really nurture. You
got to plan out ahead of time, and we call being on time being 2 months ahead.
I like that. Yes,
that's on time. At least a month. Really, I really say at least a month. If we're not a month ahead, we're behind. So that's just because life gets in the way, stuff comes up, but that ruins your consistency. So definitely. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure that this makeup company, leading up to it, they started touching like, hey, look at this skin tone, look at this color, look at all these different skin tones, look at all these beautiful people. They all need a solution. No one's serving you, you poor people. No one's serving you, but we are. Right.
I met with Dana, who is one of the founders, just last week, and I was telling her, you guys are such an amazing story because we just launched the site. You really had nothing before that, and you sold out overnight. And she says, you say overnight, we say 15 years because it took us 15 years to discover the gap, build the product, create the audience. And she's right. It's not something that happens overnight. It could happen overnight if you have a ton of money to spend. And then what I like to say is that if you have a lot of money, because we work with a lot of companies. There are companies that have a lot of money, companies that don't. If you have a lot of money, it doesn't mean you're going to succeed. But it means that you're going to figure out if you have something much faster.
Yeah, or don't have something much faster.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I just wanted to address that because, you have those overload sites popping up and people sourcing products out. And, I mean, it can work if you're building a brand around that, a lifestyle brand around that. But you see those, and we get approached, and I've just recently just start turning people away. I was like, I mean, you just have a hodgepodge of products, no branding, no anything.
Right.
Are you the cheapest? Because that's
Right.
about all you have the opportunity to roll with right now, and you
Yes.
don't really want to. I mean, I'm not saying being the cheapest isn't necessarily a business model. If you have some sort of weird competitive advantage like Walmart and their distribution system or something like that, that there's a reason, but that's going to be very hard to come by. So
Yes.
if you are thinking about starting up an online e-commerce store in Rafael, I mean, agree or disagree, but you can't just source products and sell them without building your brand in and around that. Because that's the way people are buying these days. They're buying from brands they always would hear that they buy from brands like, and trust, but now more than ever,
Yes.
they care about your cause, they care about what you're giving to them, be it content tips, and builds that trust. And then because there's so many choices.
There's so many choices, exactly. So
Yeah.
why not care? If I see a bunch of different companies selling the same thing, why would I not pick the one that has something more?
Yeah.
There's no reason not to. And
Gotcha.
all the options are out there. So what's really funny is that you have Overloo, and there's so many people selling the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I know that, I still sometimes fall in the trap. So when I was back in Greece, I saw this amazing belt that was stretchy. It was made through this. It almost had like braids that were able to stretch, and I thought it was so cool because you basically just need one belt. You stretch it a little bit out, and it fits no matter what's happening. And I thought, you know what? I'll just try to build a company around that because I feel like I can totally market this. I come back here, and I just go to Amazon and I do stretchy braided belt. 15 different people selling exactly the same thing for less than what I could find it on the Chinese manufacturer or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that shows you that even the Chinese manufacturer is selling it on Amazon, basically.
Yeah.
Now, could I still do it? Probably, because I can brand it in a certain way that makes it seem like a bigger deal.
Yeah.
But I cannot just say that I'm going to source this product because it's a cool idea and it seems very reasonably priced and sell it, because good luck competing with another 15 on Amazon, another 50 on eBay. It just will never end. There's just so many of them.
Yeah.
Because
I hear you.
The same thing, right? We're all looking at the same supplier.
Yep. Absolutely. But I mean, it got your attention. And again, we're not saying you can't do it, but you can't just do that. Or
yes.
You could get very lucky if you find a hot topic, hot product, and you strike while the iron's hot. Sure, but it's going to be fleeting, and if you don't build a brand around that. So again, a big takeaway here is you've got to make sure you're not just selling stuff. You're speaking to your audience. You're giving them other stuff in between your offers. I was talking to someone the other day, and they're about content, and they're like, yeah, we're educating people. I go, no, you're not. yeah, we are. We're educating people on that you can buy this from us. I'm like, that's not what I'm talking about. That is not educational content. Even if you have a video of how to order from you, that's not an educational piece of content. So, all right, well, awesome. Now let's dip over to a little bit of the potential negative side, talk about it. But what is the biggest reason startup companies fail? Or what are some of the biggest reasons? Obviously, we've talked a little bit about, big picture, why they don't fail by not. But are there any specifics you've seen out there that, startups fail?
I've seen a ton of things, right? And we can touch on a few of them. But what's really interesting is that I find that, poor planning or not creating a plan of what you're doing after you launch that website, things like that. Big picture, there are many subcategories of those two. But these are core reasons of why you can fail. But what I find is that a lot of times, if you've done your research and if you've put some thought into your product and your brand, then you could potentially even overcome some of that poor planning. But in its core, I would say that this is the key reason why companies fail. They fail because they start a company for the wrong reasons. Or rather, they market the company based on the wrong stuff. And a funny example I like to give is that I'm a big guy. I'm 6'7", which is very unique. I'm also from Greece, which is extremely unique. There's only a couple of thousand people that are like that. And yet, nobody gives a shit about that, because that doesn't change the content that I give you. It doesn't make it better. It doesn't have an effect in your business versus maybe my 10 years of experience, or the fact that I've worked with, Fortune 100 companies, or maybe I've been interviewed on big channels. Things like that help my pitch that I'm an expert. Mm-hmm. So that's really what it comes down to. Imagine if you're selling a product based on the fact that it's a beautiful product. Well, okay. And if you don't have something more to say that will really stick, then you miss the boat, and people are just not going to buy it, because we have to remember that somebody can launch a store and sell a product in a week. I can launch a store and sell a product in a day. So when you have a market that is so competitive and so easy to enter, you just cannot compromise for average. You cannot compromise. It doesn't work that way. And it's sad sometimes, because it's a lot of times chicken and the egg, where we have a prospective client come over and say, I don't have a lot of money, so I want to keep it super simple and blunt and see how it goes. And I tell them that I like the idea in theory, but if you don't have money, then you need to spend time to really fine-tune your pitch, to really fine-tune what you're selling, because if you don't, and you don't have something spectacular to launch with, it's just not going to work. After we did Melt Cosmetics 5 years ago, and it became a very big success in the independent makeup world, we started getting a lot of people that were launching makeup brands, like a couple a week, like a lot of them. We cannot work with most of them because we, unfortunately, they're bootstrapped, and now we're at the level where just our costs are so high. But I always tell them to focus on that. Like, don't look at Melt and say that you're going to be the next Melt, because you're just not going to be the next Melt. As simple as that. But you can get close to that, or even bigger than that, if you focus on what makes your product unique, or your company unique, or you unique.
Or what your audience wants, right? I've heard that often. You build an audience, and again, it could be, in unison of building, launching a product. But then ask your audience, what the heck do you want? Right? Yeah. And they'll tell you.
They'll tell you, yeah. Or listen to them and just look at where that's also super important. You want to figure out, actually, that's number one. Figure out who you're selling to. I think that one of the biggest reasons startups fail, back to your question before, is that they launch thinking that they appeal to everybody. It's almost like Rihanna saying, well, I cover all skin tones, so I appeal to everybody. You don't. Your audience is the people that could not find makeup before you existed. That's your audience. Of course, Fenty Beauty knows that, but a lot of people miss that because they think that going bigger will help them be more successful.
Oh, yeah, that's another great point, right? You want to build from the inside out. So this makeup company, if I'm working with them and you're just getting going and you have limited inventory, limited advertising dollars, limited everything. Everybody has some sort of limit.
Of course.
And smaller, startups don't really have a lower threshold. So you gotta be successful fairly quick out of the gate. And so my assumption is what they did is they probably found the hardest skin tones that people or that women might have had issues with, they're like finding makeups that fit them. And then that might have drilled down to a certain demographic, maybe a certain race, maybe a certain age group. And that's probably where they went to. And I'm guessing, I don't know, but that's what makes it.
Well, in this case, they had a ton of money, so they were able to approach a lot of them.
Yeah.
But even so, that's how it went. Yes, they targeted specific demographics, because even if You select to target many different demographics. As long as you're specific to them and you have millions of dollars behind you, you can do that. If you don't have millions of dollars behind you, you have to focus on one at a time, because it's much easier to make a win if you're really, really focused, like really granular with your audience. Like, who is it? What do they like? What do they do? What do they care about? Where do they have conversations? What are the topics that they talk about? And join the conversation. And that's where you should sell your product as well. But sell it as an afterthought rather than, just don't make it be the first thing. Try to go at it from the approach of really understanding your audience and understanding what they're looking for and what they care about, and then structuring a brand around that. But this happens to also sell a product. The product is, it has to be good, right? If it's not a good product, then all that goes to waste. But if it is a good product, then you need to give it a fair shot to succeed. And the way you do that is by creating a brand that makes it more than just a product. You're selling a candle. What purpose could a candle ever serve? Give it a purpose. Maybe connect it to a certain cause. For example, your Pura Vida bracelets. The founders, I don't know if they're from Costa Rica, but they went to Costa Rica and they saw that there's a lot of poverty. So they created a whole company using Costa Rica. So they basically build everything in Costa Rica. They manufacture everything in Costa Rica. And they just sell bracelets. They're very trendy, cool looking bracelets. But they launched with this really powerful cause that were helping the community, while helping the economy. And they're a gigantic success as well. I mean, that doesn't mean that everybody will be successful, but what it does mean is that if you manage to find one thing that really resonates with your audience, then you're setting yourself up for success. Now, a lot of factors will go into this to whether you're successful or not, but you're setting up yourself for success. Whereas if you don't, it's going to be an uphill battle.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're coming in loud and clear over here, because I've seen this a ton now. People just don't take any of this into consideration.
Right.
They just want the easy win. I guess that's just the nature of where we all have gone in life.
Right. It's true.
They want the quick win, and you could get lucky. You could get lucky if the timing and the market and everything is right. Like, I will say, these beauty products, I would say about 2-3 years ago, you could probably just source a lot of products and start selling them and be successful-ish. But it's going to, again, you had to be at the very beginning, and right when the overload thing and not everybody was catching on. Exactly. Now everybody's caught on, just so you know.
Exactly. Before overload, it wasn't that simple, right?
No, it wasn't that simple. It was like 25. The barrier of entry was super high.
Exactly. You had to buy the big container. Yeah. It really was a big deal to import from China. And some people did it and they made a lot of money. One of my good friends was selling beer pong tables.
Yeah.
He was sourcing them directly from China for, the margin was like 500 or 600%. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Today, you go, if you want a beer pong table, you can go directly to the Chinese on Alibaba Express and just order it directly from them. So good luck. How do you compete on price anymore? Doesn't work. So I think that also, trying to be first in something new is great, but it's so hard, and you don't even know if it's going to work.
That's why I'm saying you could get lucky, because I don't want anybody hearing this saying, "Well, I know so and so." Yeah, you could get lucky, and you could have. The chances of getting lucky about 2 years ago are gargantuanly higher than they are today. Yes. So it's like we're just really enforcing, really finding your uniqueness, your unique value proposition, and so what I'm hearing, you're calling it the unicorn principle, which I love. And it really sounds like you need to get that unique value prop. Is it, and again, we don't necessarily mean a feature or benefit unless that is a unique feature and benefit.
Yeah.
If you have a unique story, but where you came from and everything, that is a potential aspect of it as well.
You want to think about whether that's something that your audience will care about.
Yeah, and then that's the other thing, is making sure what you're coming up with here matches with what your customers are wanting. Make sure the product's good, And then make sure you know what your competitors are doing, so you can
Yes.
either be different and or snatch an idea or two.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing wrong with beg, borrowing, and stealing.
Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. I would say that, especially if you're entering a very, uh, any industry really, as long as it sounds like the audience doesn't know about it, you can take ownership to a certain extent. I'm not against, snatching ideas.
No, I mean, nobody.
But it's just the thing about it is that it's easier if it's yours.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would say. It's much easier if it's something that you really own and you really believe in and it's really authentic. It
Mm-hmm.
becomes much easier to then stick to that and be consistent. Whereas if you just see an idea that sounds good and you're like, okay, I'm going to use that, then it just becomes harder to really stick with it.
I gotcha. All right. Well, let's move on to some potential tactical takeaways as well. Once you've defined, your unique value prop, whatever that might be the story, might be the product, it could be whatever. Can you touch on everywhere you need to use it on your website? I've seen you speak on that, and I'd like for you to kind of share that wisdom with everybody.
Sure. Well, the answer is everywhere. But you have to use it everywhere. But the core idea is that, in my opinion, you need to shift your mentality from selling the product to selling the UVP, selling what your unique value proposition. Because, and that makes sense. I mean, that applies to everything, ranging from your website. So when you land on your homepage, I don't necessarily want to see the product. Or if you show me the product, show me what the UVP is as well. You want to put those two together.
Top fold.
Or if I have to drop
the top fold, top of the website.
Yeah, top fold at the top banner of your website, or if it's a video, a picture, whatever it might be, it needs to really play up that unique value proposition. And then, as far as the website is concerned, I would say that homepage is key. And then if people go to the actual product page, then it can be about the product, because that means that now they're inclined to convert. So they already took in the unique value proposition, they're interested, they're looking to convert. So then your goal becomes make it super simple for them to check out. But now outside of the website, before they even come to the website, social media, your whole social media presence should be about that. And here's another cool story. There's a company, unfortunately the name escapes me, but it's something like Ariel or something like that. I'll look it up and email you about it a little bit, or it will come to me. This is a clothing company that launched, and then they did a campaign. And the campaign was no more body shaming, no more over Photoshopping. That was the idea, no more Photoshop. So they basically started releasing pictures of their own models that were not Photoshop on social media and using them in ads. And soon enough, it became a trending hashtag, which was the brand name with the word real. So hashtag Ariel Real. And the idea was that you had consumers, you had people that were buying their products, or even without buying the products, posting unphotoshopped pictures, basically playing up that whole campaign for that company. So then the company turned it all around and basically made it its brand. So now I think the company name might even be Ariel Real, because it just took such a big, it created such a big following that it became the brand. So if you go on their site, of course, it's all about being real, no Photoshop.
Love it.
Product too. The models are wearing our products, but they're not Photoshopped. So that's the idea. If you go on their social, the little description at the top, it doesn't say, we're a great clothing company selling, whatever. It says
we're real.
Shaming, hashtag Ariel Real, no Photoshop or whatever. So that's the idea, basically, that everywhere that you engage with your follower, everywhere that you engage with your audience, whether it's on social media, whether it's advertising, whether it's on your website, email marketing, everywhere, you need to highlight position. And then at the same time, as it relates to the website specifically, once they come to your website, you know that you have them hooked because they clicked on a link, they Googled you, they found you somehow. That means that they saw some of your content. So they're familiar with your UVP, right? So now they come to your website, hit them again. At the very top, first thing they see, yes, this is us, this is our UVP still, you're still here. And then guide them to check out. Because then the idea is, okay, now they're sold or they're warming up, make it as easy as possible to check out. I almost say that sometimes if you do this right, the purpose of the website becomes to not deter the sale. And there are things that can happen there that could potentially deter the sale, but your goal is to basically let them buy your product. Let them, not convince them. They're almost convinced. You hit them on the homepage and then just let them do it, let them convert.
Gotcha. Now, on that note, we haven't touched on, the necessity for when we've talked about budgets and stuff like that, but socially advertising is almost always like part of the equation, right? I mean, you could be very lucky and spend a ton of money building a community. That's the long play that this other company did. But most realistically, you're going to need to spend money, right? And socially advertise and drive people. Now, a couple questions I have on that is, would you drive people to the homepage, that is designed that reinforces the UVP, or would you drive them to the purchase page?
The golden rule is the purchase page. You always want to drive them to the conversion. But
you could still do the UVP there.
You could, yes. So we've done this with several brands where we basically create a product page that is more than just the typical product page with your picture, description, add to cart. It's more like a landing page. The add to cart is still at the very top, right? If you're already sold, I'm not going to deter you from buying. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. But if you're not, keep scrolling and then I'll sell you. So basically, you create a landing page for the product, which might even be identical to your homepage. It doesn't even matter. But basically, you want to really highlight and reinforce the reasons that this person came to this page to begin with. So if it came from a campaign and the campaign said, #be bold, show them how they're being bold by buying your product. Whatever that might be, or, support the cause XYZ, show them what this cause is all about. Show them what they're achieving by buying your product. But yeah, I would say when it comes to advertising, because it's expensive, right? You spend a lot of money and you want to maximize your conversions. So you don't want to miss out on the person that is ready to go. So send them straight to the product page. If they're ready to go, let them go. And also add additional content in case they're not ready to go 100%, and they need a little push.
And a couple other notes, just as we're kind of running short on time. I know you think this through, but let me just touch on it, and then maybe you fill in some blanks. Sure. Some other areas that you need to concentrate on for advertising is the retargeting aspect. And Rafael mentioned that you have them cooked, cookied on your website, so you can set up tracking pixels. But then you're going to want to have various flows. Like you're going to want to have a specific retargeted banner ad for cart abandonment that you say, hey, you almost finished shopping. Anything we can do, finish your purchase. You could even do series where it's like 2, 3, 4, 5, and on the 5th series, you actually give them, hey, free shipping or last offer. You can just do regular retargeting to website visitors. Of course, you're not going to speak to cart abandonment, but you're going to really take advantage of retargeting. Those are some of the cheapest clicks out there on the marketplace.
Absolutely, yeah. Cart abandonment is huge, and remarketing overall. I would say remarket as much as you can and everywhere.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily need to go through the big boys, the ad rolls of the world. You can just retarget site visitors, and that's any marketing agency, any person you're talking to should know all of that. So I'm not talking anything that isn't just table stakes these days. Definitely. So, but any other thing?
Really cool is that I remember a few years ago when retargeting started, and the first time it hit me was I was going to UCLA, and I went to the UCLA website like 10 years ago or something like that. I went to the UCLA website to select a class. And then I was on some other site, and I saw an ad.
Like, oh my God, what a coincidence.
Like, what the hell is this? How do they know this? And I wasn't in the industry at the time, like 12 years ago or something like that. It was a long time ago. And it really freaked me out. The same way that it freaked me out the first time that I got an email, like 6 years ago, whenever that started, with my name. And it said, "Hi, Rafael, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah." I'm like, how you know my email?
It's only getting worse, Rafael. It's only getting worse. Now somebody's watching us right now, and they're gonna
totally. That might be the new thing.
We're gonna be getting lipstick in the mail.
Yeah. We were looking at Airbnbs the other day, and all of a sudden, on my wife's phone, I looked at my phone, but then my wife's phone, this is an ad for an Airbnb in Orange County where we're gonna go for a few days. So I don't know. I don't even know, how these things work. To be honest, like, is Facebook listening on us? I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know, but it's only getting worse. All right. Well, hey, we're kind of coming to an end here. So this has all been so great. I really hope we're guiding people in the right direction. And if you are looking to get going with an e-commerce product, stop for a second. Think through your whole strategy all the way from beginning to end. And what are you going to be able to continue to do? What are you going to continuously be able to serve this audience? Do you have something unique? Something. You need something, and figure that out. Figure that out and then serve it. And, when we say unique, maybe you're one of 10 other people in the country. That's still fairly unique, right? So, I mean, we're not saying one and only. So, okay. So
something that your audience cares about.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might surprise you what that could be, It isn't always obvious. And sometimes you might not get it right. So that's why you want to test a little bit. You want to see. A good way to do it is to find your audience and then just become your audience. Just dive in there, go wherever they're talking, listen to what they're talking about, and try to figure out which are the topics that create conversations. That's always a good way to do it.
That actually lends me to my last question is, this is all could be overwhelming to some. So I wanted you to just basically give them the first thing they should do. And I believe you're talking about that right now, is to listen. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to emphasize, like, what is the first thing somebody should do to get on this 1,000-mile journey, right? So can you reiterate that? What you were saying, getting going, here's where you start.
So I would say step one is find your audience. Be very, very granular. A funny example I like to give is a guy that was selling floaties for pools, and he came to us and he said, anybody is my audience. I'm like, no, they're not really. Just try to really think about it. Who would buy your product? Everybody would buy my product. And then I'm like, okay, so the guy in Alaska that has no pool, would they buy the product? Well, they could. I'm like, okay. So you really have to think about who would be most likely, at least if you want to take it that way, who would be most likely to buy your product. Start there, and then try to really, really focus on that audience. Who are they? What do they do? Where do they hang out? What do they talk about? What are some topics that have really sparked a conversation in that audience? And so on and so forth. And then study them. Listen to what they're talking about. Listen to what topics makes them really ignite and really have to talk about it and really passionate. If you're able to tie your product to that, you have a home run. If not, try to make a guess. Okay, so they're very passionate about this. What else? That's a good way to do it. And that's a reverse strategy, right? You look at what they want, and then you try to see how you can tap into that. Another way to do it is look at your brand, look at who you are, and make a whole list of the things that make you unique. I actually have a workbook for that on my blog.
Go ahead and share it. I mean, I was about to ask, how can people continue to learn?
Yeah.
And I think this is a perfect segue to that. Go ahead.
Sure. So, I mean, I really almost don't want to focus on that because I feel that this is so huge, and I've seen so many companies fail because they missed the boat on just that I really want to help people. But What I do is that I work with growing merchants. I typically focus on beauty, but the same principles apply to pretty much any industry. And the idea is that I help them one-on-one work through finding the unicorn principle, applying it, creating a website, and then hand in hand a marketing campaign that all works together. But as a step one, finding the unicorn principle and applying it, I have a workbook on my blog, or people can email me at rafael@generateculture.com, and I'll happily send it to them. It's just a simple PDF that outlines the basics of what we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, it has a worksheet with columns, so you can write things down, because I find that that's always very helpful. So the first column is you write it down. What are some things that make your company, your product, your brand unique? Column 2 is rate those things based on your competition. Does your competition have that? And if so, how much of it do they have? The third column is, and then the third and the fourth column is to basically, does your audience care about it? And how much of that do you have? So you don't want to say that, your whole company is based on, helping Costa Rica if you're just producing everything in China, selling in the US, and give them a 1% back to Costa Rica. That's kind of BS, and people will smell that. So you want to see how much of each of those items you actually have, and you really want to have a lot of whatever it is that you're going to pitch as your unique value proposition.
Awesome. Now, what is your website that people can visit?
They can visit generateculture.com.
Generateculture.com.
And I would tell them to read the blog, because what we try to do with the blog is that I try to have very elaborate blog posts that cover step-by-step methodologies. So the first one is on the unicorn principle, how to find it, how to, really zone in and make sure that that's the right one, and then how to apply it and where to apply it. Then we're doing one on influencers, how to engage with them, who are the right ones to engage with, content that you need, etc. We're going to do one on user-generated content. So back to what you were saying, you're going to have to advertise. People are not going to find you if you just launch your line or launch your website. But there are many different ways to advertise, and there are some ways that might be cheaper than others. So I'm always a believer in just trying everything and seeing what sticks, and then focusing more efforts on that.
Yeah, you always got to test track and then adjust.
Yes, absolutely. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, Rafael, I really, really, really appreciate your insight and your time today. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks so much for having me.
I encourage people to go and get that worksheet from Rafael if you're looking to get an e-commerce company going, because it might be a little bit harder than you think, but it could be absolutely rewarding, and you could, set your life up the exact way you want it. So definitely encouraging people to go this direction. Just go about it the right way. So thanks a lot, Rafael, and until next time.
Thanks so much, David.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the latest podcast. Feel free to go to magnificent.com/blog to see the show notes for this interview, as well as those from many other of the world's top marketing experts. Have a great day.